Hi there, my name's Vince from mymatevince.com, and in this video today it is the start of a brand new series, the new eBay challenge. I've already done this twice before. This is now the third series, but this time it's not just me and TronicsFix doing it. We've opened that up to a couple of other YouTubers. So we've got Paul from Tamper Tech and Elliot from the Retro Future. So there's going to be four of us doing it all together. And where this one differs is we're going to do a different thing each week, like a different criteria each week. So basically, the idea is we have to buy things from eBay, we have to try and repair them and sell them for a profit or a loss, and at the end whoever makes the most amount of money wins overall. But this time what we're doing is we're choosing different categories for each week. So on week one it's going to be an electronic item before the year 2000. Next week it will be a mechanical item. Third week will be a modern games console after 2010. Fourth week is going to be, well, it was down as an antique item, but it's before 1990, so not really antique, but it could be antique. You could pick something from 1850 if you wanted. And week 5 will be any item of our choosing. So hopefully then it will mix it up a little bit, and then we're not going to be doing similar things each week. So it'd be quite interesting for me to see what the others have chosen. And also from a watching point of view, you might get to see kind of fault finding on different things, because some people might be good at electronics, not so good on mechanical, so by throwing a mechanical one in the mix there, it might level the playing field a bit. So I think it's going to be interesting. Now we've got £200 to spend, and we can roll that if we want. So if you were very brave, you could spend £200 on your first item, and you might make £250, which you can then put onto your second item, and then you can go along like that. Now in reality, would I do something like that? No way, because if I bought a £200 item and I couldn't fix it, the challenge is over for me, and then it's not going to be very interesting. So that's the sort of, thing you've got to see, how much to spend on each item. No point in spending £2 on each item, because if you double your money to £4, that's not going to win you the competition. But maybe a sensible thing would be maybe £20, £30, £40 per item. But who knows? Somebody might go all out there on the very first episode, buy a really expensive thing, and they might win the whole contest. So I think it's going to be interesting. Hopefully you guys will enjoy it. I know for me, I'm going to enjoy filming it and stuff. So that's it. Sit back, put your feet up and enjoy. So here we have it, the week 1 item. Now this is an electrical item before the year 2000. Now with me, this one means a lot to me because it was very expensive when I was young. I just had a normal upbringing, very happy, privileged upbringing I would say. But we didn't have a huge amount of money spent on us because sometimes that can lead to kids being a little bit on the spoilt side. But then again, different parenting, different things. I would have liked all the money in the world spent on me when I was a kid. But I remember this when I was at school. And I've actually sort of like a flashback. I remember myself doing CDT, which is like woodwork. I don't know what it's called nowadays. And I remember chatting to like my bestie about this, who's still my bestie now. And really just talking about how good it would be because it was like a colour handheld. I'm not going to say anything more until you see it and then you know what I mean. Look at this, an Atari Lynx. Now this came out in I think it was 1990 in the 1990 in the UK. I think it was a year before in America. And basically, if I could have got this for Christmas, it would have just, absolutely made my day. I didn't actually know anybody with an Atari Lynx, so I don't know whether it was out of the price range of most people or not. I really don't know, but I remember wanting this so bad, and I remember the game they used to advertise was like a plane game, like a sort of Top Gun game. I don't know what it was called. I'd need to look it up. But the graphics back then were amazing because I think that was a time when I had a Sega Master System, and that was 8-bit, and this was supposed to be 16-bit. So to think that you had like something that was 16-bit in a handheld is absolutely amazing. So when I seen that I could get one for this challenge, this means a lot to me. Now obviously I'm selling it again, so even if I do fix it, it's not mine to keep. But I think even just the fact of playing it, I think I will be happy. So basically I've got that, and it also came with some games as well. So I've got the Ninja Gaiden, I've got Warbirds, and I have got Road Blasters. Now I remember Road Blasters from the arcade, and the arcade had a nice little steering wheel, and from memory it had the trigger up here that you used to press. So yeah, that is it. So let me show you what I paid for this, and then let's pop some batteries in and see what's wrong with it. Right, I'll show you the proper listing at the moment, but it has the wrong price on it, so I got it as a best offer, so I put in £51.50. I think it was up for £60 or £65, and they accepted it, so I got it for £55. Now let me show you the actual listing. Right, so you can see it there, Atari Lynx console, 40 spares to repair, doesn't power up. Now let me just read out what it says. Atari Lynx rare handheld. Item has been tested with brand new batteries. It flashes a little when pressing the off button. There is some light, but please be aware that this handheld is being sold as spares or repair. It is sadly not working and needs someone with understanding of old technology to fix it. There is a little corrosion on the battery part inside, but imagine anyone who knows what they're doing should be able to sort this. 3 games included in the bundle. I presume these are all working fine. Ninja Gaiden, Road Blasters, Warbirds. Right, so let's turn this thing on and see what's happening with it. Right, so initial impressions are that it doesn't look great. It looks like it's been taken apart already because inside here I can see staining and dust on the actual other side of this screen here, which is annoying. Also, I can see a hole here, and then I looked at the other side, and the reason is because a big whopping screw has been put in there, not these screws here. Also, can you see that these are rusted? So that's definitely not a good start. So far I'm not overly happy with it. Yeah, I can see a bit of corrosion in here. Let's pop some batteries in and see what happens. So it takes 6 AA batteries, and it looks like they all go in just the same way, top and bottom. Right. Oh, that already sounds crunchy. Right, so I think with the rust here, it's safe to say that the battery terminals are probably corroded. That might be why it's not supposed to be powering on. Right, let's turn it on. Actually, it would help if I put a game in. So now, I don't know now, I've never played one of these before, so I'm assuming if there's no game in, it won't do anything. Let's put in Road Blasters, because that is a game that I do remember. Right, it goes in that way. It's lighting up. Oh, I can see it, but you need to look at an angle. There you go, and sound. Right, so it does work. Volume. Okay, so a bit crackly. Let's check brightness. Yeah, brightness is working. Right, let's go to, let's see if it flips. Yeah, it flips round, because the idea is you can play it left-handed and right-handed. So that's quite nice, isn't it? You're not forced to play it a certain way. You can flip the screen. So if you see there now, watch this. And it goes back the other way. Right, so that's working. Right, I'm going now, I think. 1 second. Oh, that's fire. So up to go thingy, left, right. Okay, left's not working. So it's not going left, but it's going right, and obviously it's going up. And is it going back? I'm not sure about back. Right, okay, let's turn it off. So left's not working, and also we need to clean it up anyway. So there's something wrong with the D-pad. And, hold on, is that off or not? No. Okay, so it's off. But now it's not turning on. That's weird. Right, so it's not turning off, but yes, it seems like it's still on. So let me zoom in to show you. It makes kind of that weird noise, but look, it's not off, is it? Right, so it's not turning off. So I think the initial thoughts are there might be more. For example, I haven't tested all the buttons, but it's definitely not going left, don't know about down, and it's not turning off. So let's take this thing apart. Maybe I'm thinking like leaking caps or something because it's very old. Yeah, okay, so I'm just going to have to just pop the batteries out to get it to turn itself off. But not as bad as I thought. This might be fixable. Right, so I'm going to get a screwdriver and undo it here. Actually, those screws are not as rusty as I thought. It's just on the head ever so slightly. So that could even be just from a bit of condensation if it was stored up in an attic. That's okay. Well, do you know what's annoying? I'll tell you what's annoying. I haven't seen the inside of one of these before, but I'm thinking that all these capacitors look like they've been changed already because they're kind of like wiggly and they look pretty new, and I just don't think it would come out the factory like that. You see, they're all over the place. So yeah, again, somebody's already tried to repair this. I'm not saying it was the seller. Who knows, but it's definitely been, it's not going to be an easy fix, is it? Definitely going to take more fault finding than just change the capacitors out, unless of course they've been changed and they've gone faulty again, but I don't think so. I mean, hopefully the right capacitors have been put in here. Now I've got to keep away from this light here because there's going to be quite that's the backlight. That's like a little fluorescent tube. They can give you quite a nasty shock. Well, they can on the Game Gear. I presume it's the same thing on here. Right, yeah, the headphone jack looks very wobbly. The headphone jack's gone. That doesn't look right there. Yeah, I prefer electronics when they haven't been messed around with, because then you've got more chance. Remember, somebody's already tried to fix this now. So basically it means that I have to be better than the previous person that tried to fix it. Everything looks really weird. Even these things here all look wobbly. It just doesn't look great, if I'm honest with you. Right, well, let's take it apart further, find out maybe why that left's not working on the D-pad. So the fact it's not turning off means that it's not like a physical switch. You press it and then something latches on or latches off. So, you know, if it was a physical switch, you could just clean the contacts, but that's not going to be the issue in this case. Right, here we go. Wow, look at the dirt on that LCD there. Look at that, it's absolutely covered. Yeah, look. Right, okay. Well, saying that, it has been loose, hasn't it? So there is a chance that it could have gone in there. Right, I need to find out why it's not going left. So it's this one here, that's the one that's not working. I mean, this all looks okay. And that looks fine here. Maybe it was misaligned or something. I mean, there doesn't look to be anything wrong with this. All looks clean, I think. Here. Let me see the holes for the capacitors. See if. Oh, okay, so they are little... Oh, no, they go through. Hold on a minute. No, those capacitors don't look like they've been changed over. I'm just looking at the other side. Maybe they've been like this from day one. I'm looking at soldering on the other side, and it all looks professional. Let's look at these ones up here. 1, 2, and these two. Oh, I'm not so sure now. Or maybe it is going to be a capacitor problem. Let's have a look, see if any of them look like they've leaked. Or bulging or anything. Do you know what I think I'm going to do? I think I'm going to look online to save me guessing. Because if I go online and if I see that, for example, they're all, you know, they're all down on they're much lower. Mind you, they're all circled. Sorry, I'm waffling here. I'm just trying to work it out as I go along. I initially thought they might be capacitors like the Game Gear. But look, they are all on circles. So that says to me that they would have been the cylinder type ones like this. I'm going to just have a quick look online just to see if I can see anything. Because if it is a capacitor problem, then that would be quite good, wouldn't it? Well, I stand corrected. I'm amazed. I just didn't think that they would look kind of like that amateur. This looks exactly like if I had done it myself. But no, I've looked online, and sure enough, all the capacitors are just soldered on like this. Just all over the place, just bent down and everything. So, yeah, Hopefully then it might be a capacitor problem. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go across each of them. I've got a little ESR meter. I'm not going to unsolder them just yet. It would be nice to pinpoint if, for example, one or two of them have failed. And I'm going to try to do it in circuit using this. And then if, for example, I find some that have failed, I can unsolder them and then I can check them for capacitance using my meter here. Right, so far the test's okay. I have noticed on this one here, it looks like it's got, it looks like there is a bit of corrosion on one of the legs. Let me zoom in to show you that. Right, I don't know if you can see it, but on the leg nearest my finger here, can you see it looks corroded? So I've got a feeling maybe this one might have leaked a bit. On the ESR meter, it's still showing okay, but that definitely doesn't look right there. Let me test all the others. Right, nothing's really jumping out that is that bad, but there is one capacitor here that doesn't seem to be testing quite as good as the others. So with this one here, it is a 6.3 volts at 47 microfarad. Now I haven't got that on the scale down here. This is like a worse, you know, a worst case scenario scale, but I have got 10 volts. And if you have a look, 10 volts at 47 microfarad, the worst case is 2.2. And now when I go on here, so I'll just get that there. Right, so black to the negative, red to the positive. If you have a look, hold on. It's coming up with 2 point, well it's moving, but around 2.5. And it says good if less than 22 microfarad. Now I know that's for a 25 volt cap, but this one is 47, not 22. But yet everything else, even though this always tests for 25 volt caps, everything else is still testing, you know, when it says good if less than 50 microfarad, then it is less than 50. So that's the only one that doesn't look great. But I mean, there's a problem with the power and there's a problem with the left. I don't know what the problem with the left is. It could be that maybe this was misaligned, so I'm not going to worry about that just yet. But this thing here does say power module here. So would a cap over here be affecting something here? I don't know, possibly, but I don't know. I'm not too sure. I mean, I could change that out. I don't really see the point of changing capacitors if they all look perfect, but this one here definitely looks a little bit iffy. This one here with the corrosion, but on all the others they look, from what I've seen, they look okay. Right, so I was hoping to see kind of like bad readings and stuff on the capacitor, so I'm not 100% sure if it is a capacitor problem. Yes, I can, you know, change out this one here, and it might fix it. I don't know. It's an option, but I'm just going to do a little bit more testing and see if I can find out anything else about it. Right, okay, I can see something else which doesn't look right. Look at this tiny little surface mount capacitor here. Right, so you can see it just here. It looks like it says C66. Yeah, that looks really nasty. I wonder, has it leaked out of this capacitor? See, the capacitor next to it looks alright, so I don't know why it would have leaked onto there. Also, I do need to look at the batteries as well, don't I? Yeah, I can see that there's a little bit of sort of corrosion up on this bit here, in here. I've just knocked it off with my needle, so I need to look at these springs in here to try to clean them up as well. Yeah, that doesn't look great there, that one. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to get some IPA and try to clean that up a little bit. And I'm going to have a close look now everywhere else to see if I can see any more corrosion. Yeah, and if I look here, can you see there's like, looks like there's corrosion or something's been spilt in this top bit, and it's also on this bit here. So maybe that's why that capacitor, because that is over in that direction, isn't it? Maybe that's why, maybe something's leaked down onto it. Right, I'm going to IPA up this board a bit. Right, I haven't cleaned it with IPA yet, but look, I've just noticed this here, these resistors, can you see R6 and R4? That also looks pretty bad, doesn't it? It looks pretty burnt up. Right, okay. See, for me, it's quite a hard fault to find, because if it was completely dead, I could possibly like measure for voltage coming out of the batteries and then try to trace it through. But the very fact it's just not latching off, I'll be honest with you, I don't actually know where to look whatsoever to be able to find that. So I think I might be able to get it working, but I think it's just going to be pot luck by just changing capacitors or changing a MOSFET or something like that. So I'm just going to clean it with some IPA. That's 99.9% alcohol. While I'm here, I might as well just clean the game carpet as well. I mean, it looks fine, but I might as well give it a bit of clean just in case it's been oxidised over the years. I'm only actually concentrating on the 2 bits of damage that I've seen, because there's no point in cleaning it all, because the rest looks immaculate. I'm going to clean the little contacts as well for the on and off switch, and also the other buttons as well. Now I'm going to get a soldering iron. I'm just going to take off this capacitor here because it really does look corroded, so I just want to reflow that. I'm just going to have a close look at these resistors, and then once I've done that, I'm going to then just put the batteries back in just to test it, just to see if it is going to make any difference. Use this cheap old thing to take the capacitor off, and now I'm just going to clean up the pads underneath it. Because if you have a look at that bottom one, you can see how corroded it is. This one here. So I'm just going to get a fiberglass pen and clean that up a little bit. Okay, so it looks like I've managed to get rid of the corrosion, because if I go between here and here, actually on the capacitor itself, the top of it, so not the pad, I can hear it going there. And if I go to a ground over, for example, on that there, I can then tap the top of it. So I definitely know they're making a connection now. They were probably making a connection beforehand, but it was quite corroded, so it might not have helped. So I'm just going to pop the batteries back in now and see if it's going to do anything different. In fact, I can see there all the battery acid that's leaked, you see. Look at that. So it would have been the battery here that leaked, so that's the thing that was crunching earlier. Okay, so that's it working there. The volume's very bad. Well, I can look into that later. Well, let's see if it's going to turn off now. Result. That has actually turned off. Hold on now. Amazing. Right, okay, so let's zoom in here so you can actually see the screen. Well, look at that. It wasn't doing that before, was it? So now what I need to do is I need to see if the left and right's working as well. You know, the left and right over here. So it was the, I can't remember now, was it the left that wasn't working? Wow, so I wonder, was it that little capacitor then that was faulty, or was it just the general, it could have been those resistors. Remember, it was a little bit bad up by the resistors as well. Yeah, flip's working. Yes, it is working. Look, you just have to line it up correctly. Watch. Can you see it moving across there? Right, so I think I'm just going to give everything a clean up, and then hopefully when I put it back together, it's going to be working all right. So this all feels quite dusty and dirty. I'm going to clean up all those things. I'm going to clean up the case, clean up the LCD, put it all together, and it might work, because if you look there, you can see all the dust and dirt on that. And also I have to clean up the battery compartment as well. But what a result. Just try it one more time. You see it's definitely gone off there. Yeah. Wow, I wasn't actually expecting that to work. Right, happy days. Let's give it all a good clean up. I'm just going to get a good clean all around the edges as well, get rid of all the old dead skin and dirt that's gone in there throughout the years. Just looking at this loose port up here, I thought it was a headphone jack, but it looks like it's the power adapter, because it's the one furthest away from this volume wheel here. So what I'm going to do is, it's got like 3 prongs at the bottom, but yet there's only like 2 contacts on the inside of it, which looks slightly odd. So I think I'm going to unsolder it just to see if I can work out what's going on with it. Luckily, you can actually buy these off eBay, but I think they are around, I think they're about £5. But I'm going to unsolder this just to see if this one can be fixed. Right, there you go. You can see now when I wobble it here. Can you see this one at the end? Look at that. And I think the middle one might be broken as well. So I'm going to unsolder it just to see what's going on with it. Work out what's going on here, because there was 3 prongs at the bottom, but I can only see 2, so I don't know what's happened to that last one. I'm wondering if something on the inside's got snapped. I mean, even as it is now, you can just see there looks to be only 1 contact and 1 contact at the bottom. But maybe that's all you need, because you're going to have for example, the tip will be the power and this one here will be the ground, so I don't know why you need 3 there anyway. But I'm going to give it a clean up and then see if it makes more sense. Right, okay, I've been looking closely at this one here, and basically you actually only need 2 contacts. So the ones at the edge here are the negative, and then the pin in the middle is going to be positive. So although it's missing the edge one here, that one's not important. And also, even if you have a look here down at the board, you can see that this one here is going to be the negative, this one's the positive, and this one's doing nothing anyway, so it must be just soldered in there to give it a bit of strength. Now, if I was keeping this for myself, what I would do is, you see this pin, the negative pin at the side is perfect, and that's the bit that actually clips the plug in. So basically the plug goes in here and it kind of clips into place. But the problem I've got is this middle pin here, which is positive. It's pushed right down at the moment, so it's barely going to make the contact here, and yet it's still not showing down the bottom at all. So if I was to push that any more down, when you push this in, it's not going to make a contact with it. So that's why this had no strength, because it was only actually one of them that was holding it in place. Even though there was 3 there, I think the others were just remains off where it had been snapped off. So if I was keeping this for myself, I would just basically solder a wire onto this, hot glue gun this down onto the board, and then it would still make the contact, and it would probably work absolutely fine. The problem I've got is I am actually selling this on, And if I do that, and if it's a bit of a dodgy connection, which it could be, then every time the person's going to knock the lead, if they're not using batteries, or knock it with their hand or arm or something, it's going to just cut out and it will drive somebody mad. So I've actually bought a spare one of these. You get them on eBay. They're £4.20 UK pounds. So actually quite expensive for what it is. But I think for the heartache it's going to cause somebody by bodging this one up, I'm happy to spend the £4 something to have it fixed correctly, especially because I haven't had to spend any other money on this at the moment. So basically I'm still going to put it back together. This part's going to take 4 or 5 days to arrive, and when it arrives I will just solder it back in. But just for the time being, I'm going to put it all back together now anyway and see how it's working. While I'm here, I'm just going to put some deoxit into the volume wheel and also the contrast wheel as well. This stuff, hopefully it will make a nice good contact. So I'm just going to work it now, both of them, to get it right in there. Really have to get the capacitors out of the way. They're not very nicely designed, I don't think. Okay, so you can see how much cleaner it all looks now, so hopefully it will feel nicer and look nicer. One thing I'm not sure where this goes, I've got a little plastic washer here, but I've only got one of them, so I'm thinking it goes on something like this, but it's weird how I've only got one, unless originally maybe there was 4 of them. Not sure. Work out what I'm going to do with the screws. I'm just going to put one in each corner because that will make it go together better than just all on one side. Oh, hold on a minute. Ah, there you go. I made the same mistake as the previous person. So basically, it's 2 long screws this side and it's going to be 2 shorter screws this side. So if you see them for sale, where it's been broken through, it means it's been taken apart and the long screws have been put on these ones here. So that screw doesn't even fit in there, so it's pointless using that one. I'm going to see if I've got any similar screws to this. Right, I found some that fit perfectly. Annoyingly, they're flat head on top rather than cross head, so a bit annoying when you're taking it apart to have some that are cross head and some that are flat head, but they really do pull it in, and if you have a look at the length on them, they're kind of perfect on the length. So yeah, I'm just going to go with this. At least now when you look at it from behind, it's black on black, so it's not like this big shiny silver thing that jumps out at you that it's been taken apart and put back together incorrectly. This will blend in more. You'd have to look very closely. Can you see it's pulled it in? Right, so it looks good all the way around there and at the sides, but look, this top bit doesn't look brilliant, does it? It looks like the gap's too big. It needs to be closed up a bit. So I'm going to take it apart, see if I can get that a little bit better. The capacitors are definitely clear in it, and there's no screws in the middle to pull that back in there, so maybe they all are a little bit loose in the middle. Yeah, it still doesn't look great there, but maybe that's what it's supposed to look like, I don't know. Right, okay, so let's pop a card in again. Let's pop these in. Certainly a lot cleaner than it was before anyway. Right, okay. Now I've still got to give it a final polish up, but let's just see if it turns on. Yes, it does. Brilliant. There we go. Not sure what it's supposed to sound like. Right, okay, so you can see it there. Yeah. And now let's see if it turns off. Perfect. So it really does turn on and off very well now. I just need to check the left and right. Yeah, and I'm just going to flip the screen and see if it works this way around. Yeah, so there we go, look, it works both ways, left and right, and fire. I like the fact that you can flip the screen, that's pretty neat. Right, I'm going to see if the headphone jack works. I also want to know if it's supposed to be louder than that or not. I'm wondering if some of the capacitors are going to be for the volume. Oh yeah, it's much louder through these, much louder. Listen now. Right, okay, so I'm happy because it's a working Atari Lynx. Let me just try another game, so let's turn that off. But what I need to look into is, I need to look into how loud it is. So I'm going to watch a YouTube video on it because there's no point in me looking for the fault if there is no fault there. Maybe the speaker on this is supposed to be that quiet, maybe this one's on its way out, or maybe it's the capacitors that deal with that one, deal with the speaker, that is faulty. And also remember, I have to wait for this to come before I can install that as well. You know, that sounds a bit louder, this one. And you know what? The screen is particularly nice. I mean, for something so old, like this really is night and day when it comes to the Game Gear. I think this one looks much clearer. Remember, it's all very light here. If I turn these lights off, you probably get a better view. There you go, look at that. Much better, isn't it? Right, okay, so I'm going to give this a final clean up now. It turns off again. I'm going to get some plastic polish, give it all a clean up, and then when this arrives I'll have to install that and double check for the speakers. But it all appears to be working well. Right, I'm just going to use some of this to give it a nice good clean. See, it looks much nicer than it did before. So now what I'm going to do is wait further into the week until this arrives, and then I can solder it in, and by then I will have done a bit more research to find out exactly how it should work, what it should look like and sound like, etc. So I'll see you in a little bit. Right, okay, it's only been about 10 minutes, but I just want to show you this. When I watched a YouTube video on this to hear the sound and stuff, I noticed that it was playing differently. When I was playing it on this, it was showing the back of the plane, and on that game it was showing the front of the plane. All I had to do was loosen up the screws a bit. I had the screws tightened too much, and this button here was constantly pressed. So if I go through it now, let's just go down to Swarm. Now you can see it's facing correctly, and also it sounds proper as well. So before, that button was forced down, and that's what was happening, that's to look around, but normally it faces that way. So now with the volume sounds better now as well. Yeah? And it all appears to be working, so you can see like I'm banking right and banking left, going up towards the sky and then down towards the ground. So it does all appear to be okay. So all I'm going to have to do is basically get the power jack soldered in, and I think then this is going to be one good working Atari Lynx. So I'll see you a bit later. Okay, it's a little bit later in the week. The power jack still hasn't arrived yet, but I've been thinking about this speaker, and I've just had a little message with Gadget UK 164 just via YouTube, and he basically said that the speakers can be prone to failing on Atari Lynxes, and it is possible. See, this is a 16 ohm speaker, but it is possible to change it over to an 8 ohm apparently Do you know what? I'm not going to peel that off yet because it might not necessarily be the speaker. But he also said check the caps that deal with the, you know, the speaker circuit as well. Now, or something along those lines. It was more technical than that. But I've had a look online, and somebody mentioned something about C11, and now C11 looks to be the one right next to the one that was dodgy. So looking in here, yeah, C11 is this cap right in here. And the one that was dodgy was here. So do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take off the dodgy one, which I've already done. And again, I tested it for ESR. And it is basically depending, it kind of varies a bit, but it's either just on the limits or out of limits. And this should be a 47 microfarad one. So this is 6.3 volts, 47 microfarad. And if you have a look, when I put it on my meter here, it's coming up as 60 something. There you go, 62. So 47 to 62 is quite a bit out, not massively out, but I'm going to swap that over just in case. I'm also going to unsolder C11 as well, and I'm going to swap that one over. Right, okay, check this out now. I'll put the volume up in a minute. So basically, I changed over the two capacitors, C10 and C11. Didn't make any difference to the speaker. Then I changed over the one that I was slightly worried about earlier on, had a little bit of corrosion. Changed that over, and that didn't make any difference. I then measured all the old ones that I took out, and apart from the one that I initially suspected, all the others were testing absolutely fine. So with this one over here, I did put the old one back in because the one I replaced it with was 50 volts rather than 63 volts. So I thought I'd better stick with the original. But I started messing around with the speaker then, and I was kind of pulling at it and trying to loosen it up a little bit. And I think what's happened is, I think throughout the years, I think the foam and the cardboard and stuff has just gone hard, so it's not vibrating as well as it should. So what I did is I had these very old, they were only very cheap, rubbishy Alba headphones from years ago, and they weren't working in one of the years. But I'm not bothered because they were useless anyway. But check this out now. I've put the speaker just in here temporarily, and now listen to it. Ready? Listen to that. Oh, that is just lovely. No crackle, no like static, and a nice bit of volume to it as well. Now, annoyingly, I can't see what, slow that down, I can't see what ohm speaker this is, and it is slightly smaller. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of cut around the plastic to make it the same size as this, because this is a 50 mil one, and if I put it there, you can see it just fits inside here. So I'm going to cut around the plastic in here, then hopefully it will fit into this housing quite nicely here. But that sounds lovely. So I'm gonna stick with that, and then I'm gonna play it for quite a few hours before selling it to make sure it's okay. But to me, there's no comparison between that and the old one. I would hazard a guess that that is probably as good, if not better, than when it first of all came out. So I'm gonna run with this one here. So let me get it all sorted, put it back together, and then I'll show you it. Okay, so I've taken it out now, and as you can see, it's roughly about the same size as the original one. So depth, there's no problem with the depth either. So I think what I might do is I might actually put a bit of foam over the front of it just to stop dust and stuff getting into it. And yeah, and then I'm going to put this plastic thing back onto the back here, because that's what was on the original one. And hopefully then it will stay in place okay. Right, so I've got the foam over here with just a bit of Captain tape keeping it in place. Got the speaker in here now. I had to make a few cutouts to get around the capacitors, and also these little screw hole things here, because these are slightly wider and they clip down over on top of it. And I've put some Captain tape in just to stop it moving around the place. So now when that goes here, it doesn't go into its original home, because the original home was in here, so this is a lot thinner. But the points here are still going to keep it relatively in place. I mean, I could pack it out more, but it doesn't seem to be shaking around the place, so I think I'm going to leave it like that. Obviously it doesn't look as good as the proper speaker, but it's going to sound a lot better. Okay, so now the part has arrived, and you know what, it's just as well I got it, because I was imagining something like a 3.5mm jack. but it's not. You can see that it would be an actual socket that goes in there, so the male part's in there, so my existing one was completely broken. So now I'm just going to solder this back in. I'm not going to bother filming it because it's just self-explanatory. You've seen how I took the old one out. This is just going to go in, solder up the 3 points, and then hopefully this will be one fully working Atari Lynx. Right, there it is now, back in its home. I'm so glad I got this one, because if I bodged up the other one, I would have assumed it was going to be okay, and I didn't realise that the internal design was completely different. So, yeah, I'm really happy that I ended up spending the £4.20, whatever it was, on this one here. Now let's finally give this a nice good clean up here, and clean the screen so there's no dust or anything, and get it all back together. There we have it. All finished. How nice does that look? And the power jack looks so much better now, because before it was all wobbly and horrible and empty, so it wouldn't have worked anyway. Can't actually test this because I haven't got the correct connector for it. Also, I can't test this to link up other Atari Lynxes because I haven't got them. I'm just assuming they're going to work okay. Obviously, when I come to sell it, I have to say that these two things are untested. But everything else is testing okay. Look at that. So then you can flip it round and play it that way. Flip it again. And then it goes back to the other way. I think that's really nice, and also the volume. Listen to that. And we've got full control over it as well, and also the brightness as well. I think it's come out really, really, really good. So I'm well happy with this. And do you know what? Yes, I would be happy to keep it, but at the same time, I'm not disappointed that I'm going to be selling it, because it's kind of scratched that childhood itch that I had. It doesn't mean it's a bad device. I think it's a really nice device. It's just obviously things have moved on. And when you look at something like the Nintendo Switch, then obviously this can't compare. And also, this doesn't bring back memories for me, because I never had one, so I haven't kind of got those memories of like playing it for hours late at night and stuff with the volume down without your parents knowing. So I'm actually quite happy to let this one go, but I'm so glad I got the opportunity to fix it, because now I can say that I've owned an Atari Lynx. I've had a go on 3 games at least, and yeah, I think it's a very good machine. And also, look at this. Perfect. I've been mucking around with this for quite a few days now, and it's not wearing the batteries down. So for example, if I leave it overnight, I don't come back and the batteries are flat. It's the same batteries that's been in it since the start, and every single time I turn it on it works, and every single time I turn it off it works as well. So yeah, really, really, really happy with it. So all we have to do now is try to sell it and see what it makes. I'm hoping it will make a profit, but I don't really know, because again, when you buy broken things, you have to pay so much for them that often there's no room for a profit. And I've got to include that £5 jack in there as well. And although I already had the speaker, I have to allow for that speaker, so I've got to kind of charge a couple of pounds for that, because that's how much a speaker like that would be. So by the time you add all that up, don't really know if there's going to be a profit or not, but hopefully there will be. So you're going to find out now what this thing sold for. The Atari Lynx has sold, and have I got off to a good start in this competition? Oh, the sweet, sweet feeling of making lots of money on eBay. Oh, this competition has got off to a roaring start. Do you believe me? Of course you don't believe me. Look what the thing sold for. So here is my lovely picture on my eBay listing. That took me about half an hour to 45 minutes to do, with all the pictures and the write-up and stuff. And it sold for, wait for it, bang, £62, and that includes free standard delivery. So I spent £55 on it, plus I spent £4 on the power ports. That brings it up to 59. Let's call it £1 for the speaker, even though I already had that. That brings it up to 60. Postage cost me just under £5, so if you call the packaging and stuff on top of that, it would be around £5, so that brings it up to £65 without any eBay and PayPal fees. They are at least going to be £5, £6, £7. So you're looking that this had to make around £70 or possibly £72, I haven't worked out the exact figures yet, for me just to break even. So selling it for £62, I have made a nice big loss on this. So all that time spent fixing it and cleaning it was down for nothing. Obviously I still make money because I've got adverts running on my videos, so I'm not going to be out of pocket myself, but you can see how you have to be so careful buying and selling stuff on eBay. So now, did the buyer get a bargain, or did I pay too much for it? I really don't know. Put it down in the comments what you think. I think I possibly paid a little bit too much, but I think £62 for an Atari Lynx, especially a Mark 1 with 3 games, I think that is a bit of a good price. I'm not sure how often they would come up for that price. So yeah, this competition for me has not got off to a good start, but it means it can only get better. Or does it? Does it mean it can only get worse? I don't know. But yeah, it means I have to pull back quite a lot now. Not the best start to it, but still, at least I did get it working. So I didn't lose £62. I've lost, you know, like £10 or something. But yeah, onwards and upwards, as they say. So that's it for this video. If you got any enjoyment from it, please give it a thumbs up and please subscribe for more Trying to Fix videos. Take care. Bye now.